These days it seems like everyone's a movie critic, but sometimes when we listen to the critics, we miss out on the joys to be found in watching bad films. That's where we come in. In Defense Of is a movie podcast where we watch universally panned movies on purpose and challenge ourselves to focus on the positive and redeeming qualities of those films. Maybe it's the music, cinematography, acting, or just some unintentional humor. Sometimes it will be really easy, especially if we already like the film in question. But other times, it's going to be really, really hard. Either way, we're bound and determined to find something worth liking, and might even learn a thing or two along the way. So take off your cynic pants and buckle your seatbelts. In this episode, we play devil's advocate in defense of 2017's The Emoji Movie. Hello and welcome to In Defense Of. Today we are looking at 2017's The Emoji Movie. With me is Aaron. How's it going, Aaron?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, doing good. I have a question for you.
Yes.
What does North Korea, Jordan Peele, brain surgery, and bomb threats have in common?
Oh, well, it's gotta be the Emoji Movie.
Yes, that is correct. And by the end of this episode, you'll know why. We're gonna approach this like a criminal investigation. So the Emoji Movie currently sits on Rotten Tomatoes at 7%, which means 7% of the reviews that they aggregated were positive. That is 1% higher than Geely, which we recorded last episode.
Yeah.
So that's a little scary. Scary.
Also, I feel like that this movie was 1,000 times better than Geely.
Yeah, I agree. This was a lot easier on the nerves than Geely. I was full on intimidated. I was scared to watch Geely, but this I was like, yeah, whatever. It's a movie. Okay, Aaron. So, did you see this in theaters? When did you first see this?
No. So I watched it actually yesterday. I went over to my family's for breakfast, and I asked them what they were all doing. They had no plans, so I made them all watch the Emoji Movie with me. So it was an experience because I was like, whatever, like this movie's not that bad. And I had my 13-year-old nephew who just like moaned and groaned the entire time, being like, no. What is this? Oh my gosh, are we seriously watching this? And so it was pretty funny. But half of me is like, I don't know if he's just, 13 and likes to complain, or if he actually hated it. But
so halfway through, did you switch it out for Master of Disguise?
No, not yet. I still haven't done that one yet.
Yeah, I too watched it for this episode, just a couple days before you did, and yeah, I avoided it in theaters. I had obviously heard all the buzz and the negativity surrounding it, but really had no ambitions to go see it in theaters. I think it's pretty clear that this movie is not for us. It's probably not for anyone under the age of 18, probably.
Yeah. But that's kind of interesting you say that, because one of the things that came up, my sister was there and she was like, would kids even get this movie? Just because, it's almost they're in the phone, right? And so as a younger kid, like, you're not going to get that.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, especially if you don't have a phone.
Mm-hmm. So this is essentially this movie is trying to hit the target audience of like 14 or like 13 to 16 kind of. Right. Yeah.
And that's kind of interesting because it didn't do too badly. It really didn't at the box office. It made a ton of money. It was, I think it cost about $50,000 to make. $50 million to make. Sorry, $50,000 went into the opening credits. $50 million to make, and the cumulative worldwide gross was $217 million.
Oh yeah, okay.
So nothing to be too disappointed about on a financial standpoint.
Yeah.
But again, Aaron, this is a Sony movie. Geez, man, if we're not careful, this whole podcast is just going to be about Sony films. Holy smokes.
It's so bad. Hey, I mean,
Yeah,
can't Sony make a good movie? Like, what are they doing? Who's in charge of making the movies there?
I know. It's madness. It really, really is. So, yeah, I mean, I watched this and my approach to watching these is probably like you, is I don't do a bunch of research until I've seen the film because I don't want to like color my my perception going in. So I didn't read any interview. I didn't even look at the Rotten Tomatoes score prior to watching it. Just watched it, took it at face value, and then started digging in, and then was again, like I think like Gili, just shocked at the level of anger towards this film.
Yeah, there is quite a bit of anger towards it.
Yeah, so we have to talk about the context of this film. I mean,
Sorry, did you want to give the rundown of the plot?
Yeah, go ahead and give the rundown of the plot for sure.
Sure. Okay. So this movie it's about emojis. The emojis are living in the kid's name is Alex. They're living in his phone, and he's got to be what, like 14, 15 at the time?
Yeah, somewhere in there.
And yeah, so it centers around an emoji, and he is the meh emoji, who is voiced by TJ Miller. And basically, I don't even know how to describe it. So whenever the emojis get chosen by the kid, like using them in his phone, like there's like the emojis are in their own little world that's in the phone, and they get their job is to be selected for the keyboard to like display it, right? And TJ Miller, the meh emoji, he is just like, he's not really good at being meh. He displays like multiple emojis. He'll go to the heart face, crying face, laughing face. He'll do all those. And so everyone just views him as he's malfunctioning because he doesn't fit in. And so the movie is about him essentially trying to get reprogrammed so that he can fit in. And towards the end of the movie, he realizes that he doesn't need to be reprogrammed to fit in, and he can fit in the way he is. And there's like this little sweet scene where the boy sends the emoji of the meh, and then he like goes through a bunch of emotions. So I think he does laughing, meh, like heart eyes, and then and the boy sends this to the girl, and then the girl thinks it's super cute, and they end up going to a dance together. So I left like a lot of like key parts out of that, which I'm sure we'll talk about as we go. I don't know, did you want to add anything more to this?
No, you pretty much nailed it. I wrote down the line that the girl says at the end because it was one of those unintentional laughter lines where I just like the whole premise of the movie kind of threw out the window. She says to him when she sees the new Gene emoji, she says, "I like that you're one of those guys who can actually express his feelings." But
okay.
By extension, he didn't. Gene did. You know what I mean? So I was like, that's bizarre. So, but no, that's 100% the plot in a nutshell. Yeah, everyone thinks that Gene is a malfunction. They get chased around by antivirus bots. Hijinks commence. It's pretty straightforward writing. Pretty stinking straightforward. A lot of cliche. I feel... I was kind of confused while watching this because I kept thinking about like Wreck-It Ralph and Ralph Breaks the Internet. And then I was thinking about Inside Out, and I was trying to figure out who was stepping on whose toes there because everything kind of felt similar. I haven't seen Ralph Breaks the Internet, but I feel like I have now that I've watched the Emoji movie.
Yeah. Hey?
Even though I think Ralph Breaks the Internet is probably a better film. Yeah, so that's the plot, and that kind of frames up everything we're going to talk about. Now, this is an easy movie to watch and take it at face value and kind of judge it, but there's so much interesting stuff to unpack here as to where this movie came from. I think we have to start with Sony.
Yes. Okay.
So one of the things I'd mentioned at the top there was North Korea. So, Aaron, flash back to, I think it was 2014 when a movie called The Interview was about to come out. It had Seth Rogen and it had, why can't I remember his name off the top of my head?
James Franco.
Seth Rogen and James Franco. So in the movie The Interview, which is a Sony product, the plot is assassinating the North Korean dictator Kim Jong-un. So a lot of people weren't happy about that, obviously. A group of hackers operating out of North Korea had, I think they called themselves like the Guardians of Peace, something like that. They had hacked a bunch of data from Sony's pictures and released it online. And it was everything from like financial records to like what people were being paid, their upcoming film slate, just a whole bunch of stuff. And it just about put Sony Pictures in the ground. Like, this was a total disaster for them.
Yeah.
So Sony now has to recover their losses. And they're looking left, right, and center for a surefire hit, some sort of content to recoup their money. So what they do is they rush out the Emoji movie, which was made in 2 years. Yeah. Because one, they wanted it to still be relevant because technology is moving so fast. And two, they wanted to cram it full of product placement deals to try to get as much money into this little project as possible to get them through the fiscal quarter, or whatever it was. So right then and there, it doesn't bode well for your movie when it's basically its sole purpose is to save the studio from foreclosure, essentially.
Yeah.
I read, Aaron, that when the trailer dropped, a lot of people thought that the trailer was fake, and so many people disliked this trailer, and the backlash was so strong that I can't remember who it was. I think it was like Wired or someone. Someone ran like a clickbait article that Sony was actually pulling the movie because it was so negatively received when the trailer dropped and all that dropped.
Yeah.
But that wasn't true. But so many people believed that by the time it hit theaters, so many people had already made their minds up about this movie.
Yeah.
That's nuts.
Yeah, just even reading reviews and stuff, people just are absolutely like losing it over all the product placement and just like the selling out of the movie, I guess.
Yes. Sony is one of the worst perpetrators for product placement. If any Adam Sandler movie is just, it's a nightmare commercial world. It's so crazy. And this movie, man, in fact, I will go so far as to say the only thing that truly bothered me about this film was the product placement.
Yeah.
There's a Candy Crush sequence. There's a Just Dance sequence.
Yeah. Then there's all the apps and stuff that they have on the phone that they show them like traveling to.
They ride a tweet. They surf a Spotify wave. They're trying to get to Dropbox.
There's Facebook references.
Yeah. Good Lord. That stuff makes my skin crawl. I hate it. But in the context of the business, it worked. That's what's so spooky, is it totally worked for Sony. Obviously Sony Pictures is still around. They're still pumping out films.
Yeah.
Oddly
still pumping
enough,
out bad films too.
Yeah, still pumping out bad films. Yeah, and so that's the backdrop of what this movie was. Now, Aaron, also, it's impossible to talk about this film without talking about T.J. Miller.
Yeah.
Or Todd Joseph Miller, as I found out.
Yeah, me too.
So what do we know about T.J. Miller?
Okay, so there was a lot of interesting things around him. One of the things I found the most interesting was, at the time, I don't know if you've ever watched the show Silicon Valley.
No, I hadn't, no.
So on that show, it kind of leaves you on a not so much a cliffhanger, but like a really kind of funny situation in the way that TJ Miller exits the show. And so I always thought it was odd because the show is like truly like a really funny show. And I feel that TJ Miller did bring quite a bit to that show, as well as in terms of just like on-screen presence and like humor and everything. Like he brought quite a bit to that show. And so I thought it was very odd that he would stop or that he wouldn't be in it. And yeah, one of the things is like he went on to do the Emoji movie. But the thing that was interesting is whenever I was looking at why he left the cast of Silicon Valley, it was because apparently he was showing up late to work. When he would come to work, he would be either under like the influence of pot or alcohol, and just didn't take his job serious. Left the whole entire cast like waiting for him, and yeah, so he just seemed like he was in a world of hurt, and yeah, and I read a few interviews, and it just seemed like the guy was he was just like, well, I like the difference between me and someone else is that I am in the public eye, and whoever just goes to their 9 to 5 job just does that, and he's like, this is my 9 to 5 job, and so it's just really weird because it didn't seem like he was that interested in doing the Emoji movie, but more so approached it as it was just a job that he needed to get done.
Right.
I'm glad you're excited about this Emoji movie, and I'm glad that things are going well for you. But A, I'm a little bit angry with you, and B, I'm worried about you, and I'm going to tell you why. Why are you quitting Silicon Valley? This is a terrible idea. I love that show. I love your character, Earl Bachman. I think you do a great job. The show is not over. In fact, aren't there 2 more seasons of the show to come?
I mean, perhaps. I'm not on it anymore.
You will not be on the show anymore. No. Did you get fired? Did you steal something? Did you steal that ring?
I mentioned earlier that I didn't want to talk about this.
I know you did, but
Jimathan, please.
And then the other thing that was kind of funny and which also left this impression on me was that I was watching interviews and he was talking about the Emoji movie, and one of the big stunts that Sony decided to do, I can't remember what film festival it was. But right before that film festival, they decided that they would fly in, they would parasail TJ Miller in onto like a barge, and then he would get off and like pump the movie up. And if you ever have some time, like I suggest you look up this because it's actually like just the most stupidest thing you'll ever watch.
We're here for Sony to promote the Emoji movie, to do a stunt that shows how exciting and adventurous this is gonna be! Reach out! No! Ow!
It's like honestly not that great, and then he just like lands, and then it takes him like 10 minutes to get out of his like whatever harness that he's in from parasailing. And then he like runs out into the stage and he's just like, yeah, Emoji movie. Like he just seems like he already knew what this movie was, but he's just like, well, I need to work and like, this is a job. There is a few other things. Like he said that I think it was the director sat him down and told him why he actually wanted him. And that was apparently one of the reasons that influenced him to choose the movie. But yeah, I don't know. Just seemed really odd about the whole entire thing. Mm-hmm. And yeah, you have some stuff to add to that, right?
A little bit. As of right now, he's in. As of right now, the time of us recording this is it's mid-April. 2019. I don't want to say too much because again, this is all like allegations. I want to make that clear as we're recording this. But there are some sexual assault allegations open against him right now. I don't know how those have resolved, but based on what else has been said, that's nuts. Also, in I guess it was almost a year to the day, Aaron, April 9th, 2019 or 2018, he was arrested for calling in a fake bomb threat on an Amtrak train.
Yeah.
And that hasn't resolved yet. I think he's due in court soon, as of recording this podcast. Yeah, and again, you touched on the work misconduct accusations, and as of right now, he is in a lot of hot water, a lot. And I don't know what the future for him looks like, but as an actor, man, yeah, this is just about as bad as it gets. And yeah, I knew a little bit about this because going into Deadpool 2, I'd read a few interviews about people were asking Ryan Reynolds if he was going to cut him from the film based on the allegations that had surfaced. And Ryan Reynolds was like, well, no, it's too close. We can't, he's too integral to what's going on. We can't do it. But suffice to say, he probably won't be in Deadpool 3, you know?
Yeah.
So, and I will say this, it's too bad because I still remember watching Cloverfield for the first time in like 2008, and TJ Miller voices HUD, who essentially carries that entire film. He does a great job. Most of his best work is mostly in voice acting. Like he was in Big Hero 6, which is, I love Big Hero 6. I think it's a great film. He was in Ready Player One. He did a great job in that.
Who did he voice in the Ready Player One? I forget.
iRock.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and he was in Yogi Bear. He played Ranger Jones.
Yeah.
And How to Train Your Dragon. He was Tough Nut Thorsten. So,
okay.
the guy's funny. He's legitimately funny. He's a comedian. He's done a lot of fun stuff, a lot of kid-oriented stuff. It's too bad to see him up against the ropes, but you know, we'll see how this all shakes out in the coming year. Who knows, man? This might be the last we hear of him.
Well, it's actually really interesting because if you like look at his like IMDb page and like you actually look into him, he's still's got like a few things coming up here.
He does, hey?
Yeah, so I like, who knows? It could work. It could be okay.
I know he's a survivor of brain surgery. In like 2010, he had like brain surgery, and there was like a 10% chance of fatality. So the guy has not had an easy go, that's for sure. I can't imagine hearing that, yes, you have to get brain surgery. I can't imagine that being an easy thing to deal with. Not excusing anything that he's done. I'm just saying the dude has had a tough go. That's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
That's our main character. That's our main character of this film. It's TJ Miller. Now, this movie was directed by Tony Leondis. And if that name doesn't ring any bells, that's not surprising because pretty much the only stuff he's done is animated movies. In fact, I think that's all he's done is animated movies. And all the animated movies he's done have, for the most part, been like sequels that you would never really watch, but they're sequels to bigger films like Lilo and Stitch 2, Kronk's New Groove, Kung Fu Panda, Secret of the Whatever. You know what I mean? Like he directs all these like,
straight to DVD movies.
Exactly. Like he's one of the guys that directs those movies that come up on Netflix when you're looking for the actual movie.
Yeah.
And you're like, no, the first one, not this sequel crap.
Yeah. I guess that's the new straight to DVD now, isn't it?
Yeah, straight to Netflix. Yeah, that's a whole other thing, man. We haven't even talked about Netflix films. We could make a whole you know, this whole podcast could be just about Netflix movies because Netflix is not indicative of quality. There's it's every bit as diverse as anything that comes to theaters.
Oh man, with that being said, I feel like we should do Bird Box because I don't understand that movie.
Yeah, I was a little disappointed by Bird Box for sure. So Tony Leondis, I think I'm saying his name right. He also wrote this film. He wrote the screenplay and the story and directed it. So I found out that Tony Leondis, in reading some interviews and stuff with him, he is gay. And so he referred to this project as being very personal to him because he was approaching it from the standpoint as not fitting in with what society wants you to be. And being put in a box of like, oh, you should be one way, but you're another way. And being true to yourself, it's a very it's kind of a bummer because to him it was like this personal project. But I don't know. I don't think Sony recovering from a hack trying to make money was the right venue for him to invest much of his own feelings into it, because this did not go well for anybody, because this is the last film that he has directed and has no upcoming projects, Aaron. This is
this is probably a career ender movie.
Yeah, this is like this is a funny follow up to Gigli, because we just talked about this same thing happening. Okay, so the next thing we need to talk about in context before we even start pulling apart this film is something that we've never really mentioned on this podcast yet, but is a totally common practice now, is something called review embargoes. Aaron, can you explain what that means?
I'm like not the most familiar. Like I just kind of have a generalization, so feel free to correct me at any time. But essentially, it's just that before the movie comes out, they don't allow people to review the movies, so that they cannot like skew what it's going to be. Because if people know the reviews and they know it before the movie comes out, it'll like dictate whether they go and see it. Essentially they just try to like not let anyone review it. I know this one was like a big one where they didn't allow anyone to review it, and I think they did it on Captain Marvel as well, right?
Yeah, so they've done it on a few movies. Yeah, that definition is 100% accurate. Really, it is. So Sony was so worried about, as we touched on, you can see their motivation for this. They were so worried about people crapping all over this film that their review embargo didn't lift until like the last possible second. I can't remember what I read, but it was something like hours before the movie like came out, like release, premiered, or whatever you want to call it. And then for a while it sat at 0%. Until presumably some Sony shills went and gave it some positive reviews. Yeah. Now let's talk a little bit about some of the other cast members.
Okay.
Who plays Hand? That's
James Corden?
High five. Yeah, I'm a huge James Corden fan. I love his carpool karaoke stuff. I think he's just a funny and nice guy. I don't know what it is. Like, if you haven't seen his carpool karaoke thing with Paul McCartney, oh my gosh, man, it like legitimately made me cry. It was so good. He definitely stole this film for me. I even though I found like his hand movements disturbing in a weird way.
Yeah. Okay.
He was definitely my favorite part of this film. I loved his characterization.
The old comedic relief. Yeah.
Now, one of the most famous casting choices in this film is that Patrick Stewart, Sir Patrick Stewart, plays the poop emoji.
Patrick, you have an illustrious career. Royal Shakespeare Company for 10 years.
Yeah.
But here you are, the poop emoji. Was this?
No.
Did you feel like it was all heading for this?
It came to me, and it came in an email, and it was the quickest response I have ever given.
You jumped for it.
And it jumped all over it.
Yeah.
Yes! Exclamation mark, exclamation mark.
Well, I think it's a gift, because now I will never be able to separate the poop emoji from your voice. And they will give it a great dignity.
Is that going to be a problem for you?
I don't know. I don't. I think it'll make my life better. What happened there?
Excuse me. I don't know. I got threads hanging out of my shirt.
This brings us to the next piece of the puzzle here, Aaron. In doing some digging, I found out that Jordan Peele was originally offered the role as the poop emoji. Now, keep in mind, this would have been around 2015-ish, right? Because it took 2 years to make this film. Now, Jordan Peele, allegedly, because I wasn't, I haven't seen video evidence of this or anything, but like, allegedly, Jordan Peele was so offended by this and so frustrated about the state of, movies that he took a hiatus from acting, decided to focus on directing, and won an Academy Award for Get Out.
Mm-hmm.
Which came out the same year as the Emoji movie. So
that was like his stick it to the Emoji movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna work on the phone and I'm only 10.
That's because I believe in you.
Should we wash our hands?
No. We're number 2.
So Aaron, we've talked about the context of where this movie came from, the review embargoes. Now, let's talk about the actual film.
Okay.
So what'd you think?
Overall, I enjoyed it. I thought it conveyed a positive message. And I didn't like... It was actually really interesting because I was reading some reviews on it. And so a lot of people are like, this movie is like the main character. Meh. That's how they described it. And after watching it, I was like, I get that. But yeah, it wasn't cringy. It wasn't a chore to get through. There was jokes in it. It made me laugh. And yeah, overall, I enjoyed it. Also, it reminded me quite a bit of Reboot. And I don't know if anyone out there is familiar with Reboot, but essentially it was a show. It was like a computer generated show from the 90s about people living in the computer. And I just absolutely loved it as a kid. So watching this just kept making me have nostalgia feeling of watching Reboot and remembering that. And so that kind of added to it for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I totally agree. This was not a chore to get through by any means. There was actually a couple parts that legitimately made me chuckle, which I wasn't really expecting. I thought the animation was quite nice in a couple places. Mm-hmm. Whenever I watch animated films, I always change the picture settings on my TV to vivid and turn on the little the motion thing to make it nice and crisp and vibrant and fun. And there's this one scene where they hop into his camera roll or something, and they're looking at pictures of this trip to Paris, and his parents kind of reconcile at that fountain. Mm-hmm. And they're refracting in the water, and the lighting's really nice, and everyone's kind of frozen in time. That was a really, really gorgeous scene. And I really liked the animation, especially when you think about how quickly they did it in. Mm-hmm. My cousin is one of my cousins is an animator and works on a lot of Disney shows, and I can tell you that animators don't get treated super well, and they do they're doing the Lord's work over there. It's really hard stuff. So to think that they turned out this film in under 2 years, this polished, is pretty amazing.
Yeah,
so
it is.
Gotta give props to the animators, because it's pretty wild. I mean, there's a couple places where the lighting, because the emojis themselves, they don't really accept light. They're always the same, the same color and the same brightness, no matter what their environment is around them, which was kind of jarring in a few places. Mm-hmm. They just kind of exist statically in the environments, but. I mean, there was a few points. I think any of the stuff with the kids in the high school looked really stinking good.
Yeah. It definitely was a good looking movie, if that makes sense.
Yeah, for sure. So I definitely like the animation.
Should we talk about the positive message that was displayed in the movie?
Yeah. Let's talk about that.
So I guess I'll start with So basically, like I mentioned, what was his name again? Gene?
Gene.
Yeah, Gene, who's voiced by TJ Miller. He was having trouble fitting in. And so so the entire journey is just him learning to fit in, and at the end of the movie he finally realizes like, yeah, like I can fit in. And so that's just a great thing to hear, especially nowadays, for kids too who are in school maybe having trouble fitting in. It also goes along well with the, you know, like the gender neutral people or the genderless people or whatever they identify in, and like whether you're gay. And I guess you read more into this because you said it was kind of like what the director was going for, right?
Yeah, it ended up being, he said it was really personal to him.
Yeah.
Which, again, like, I don't know, I'm sure that's true. I don't know if it was just publicity, you know, trying to make it sound deeper than it was, but you know, that's what he said. So,
Yeah.
You know, this movie, it's interesting. For a movie called Emoji Movie, you kind of walk away from this movie with the feeling that Alex, the kid's name,
Yeah.
you kind of get the feeling that he's learned a lesson about trying to just rely on emojis to communicate.
Mm-hmm.
For a movie called Emoji Movie, you're almost saying, you know what? You don't need these emojis to express yourself. You can't just like fit into one box and fit into one type of person. Like, humanity's this rich tapestry, and to think that one expression sums up how you're actually feeling in that moment is a little bit silly. You can be feeling 16 things at once or this and that. And I think that's a good message. I think that's pretty good. It's pretty good. But there is a little bit of like underlining cynicism to it, you know, because at the start of the film, especially High Five, he says a lot of lines like, oh, this is, you know, he talks a lot about the cynicism, like, oh, you know, kids are addicted to their phones, and
Yeah.
you know, it's about how many likes you get and how many fans you have following you, and you know, High Five's playing to the cynicism side, whereas Gene's playing to the, well, I don't, you know, there must be something wrong with me because I don't want to be just meh all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Which is interesting. Like, if I'm making the protagonist of a movie literally meh,
Yeah.
that's super brave, because you're trying to make this movie vibrant and exciting, and your main character is meh.
Yeah.
That's some brave writing, man. That takes a lot of balls. Because I mean,
Yeah, because it's literally the like emotionless one of the entire, like all the emojis. It's like it's supposed to be the emotionless one.
Yeah. I kept thinking, man, this is High Five's movie. I want this to be High Five's movie because he's just so fun. But
no more fist bumps. We got to bring the high five emoji back after this movie.
do you ever find out why he has a Band-Aid on his finger?
No, I was wondering that too. I like couldn't for the life of me understand, because I was like, that's kind of gross. Like, I don't want to. So why would an emoji have a Band-Aid on like his finger? It made no sense to me.
Yeah, and he has it like the entire time.
Yeah, I have no idea.
Yeah. And then I liked the visual metaphor of all the emojis being in these little like Hollywood squares style boxes. The idea of existing in a box. It's very on the nose, but if I'm trying to explain that to a kid, I think that makes it easy to. It creates a conversation to have with your kids if that's what you're doing. You know, if you're going to that level with them where it's like, well, why are they all in a box? And you're thinking, well, you know, like, because sometimes people want you to fit in a certain box and be a certain way, you know? And Gene literally, again, very on the nose, ends up like destroying that room, just like shattering that paradigm. And then he's cast out for it, which again, that's strong storytelling. It's cliche, but it's cliche for a reason, because it works, you know?
Yeah.
And
the more you're talking about this movie, the more I'm like liking it too.
That's the thing, is it's an easy movie to hate because of the product placement, because of Sony. You can read the reviews, you can watch YouTube videos online all day long about people hating on this film. But that's kind of this mob mentality that I'm finding. Aaron, the more of these movies that we actually dissect, and the more we're doing this podcast, which is crazy because it's only been a few episodes, but I'm realizing that these movies, like, people love to hate something as one of our weird one of our weird, icky human things is that we love to rally around a cause of hating something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And Emoji Movie is that personified to a T, where before it even came out, the pitchforks were out and everyone was like, F this movie, you know? But the director had said in an interview, well, this movie is meant for people 18 and under. So the reason we have this review embargo is so that people over that demographic who this movie's not even for can't ruin the experience for kids that might actually enjoy watching it.
Yeah.
Which is a fancy way of saying Sony needs to make money.
Yeah.
But there's still some truth in it.
What are your like personal thoughts on the the review embargo? Like, are you for it or are you against it?
You know what? I think I'm against it. It feels like a dirty business practice. It's like a bad trick, like saying it's like the company hiding how good the film's gonna do, because there's a lot of weird practices happening now.
Yeah.
It's funny you mentioned Captain Marvel, because I was thinking about Captain Marvel. There was a review embargo, but Rotten Tomatoes, they actually even changed the fabric of their website because people were review bombing it before it even came out.
Yeah.
Now, usually before going to see a movie, I don't typically. Usually, by the time I've decided to or not to go see a movie, I've made up my own mind about it. And a pro or con review doesn't necessarily mean I won't ever watch that movie. It's just whether or not I'll set aside time to go out, spend whatever amount of money, and sit my ass down in a theater. So I'm against review embargoes because I kind of feel like, critics, they do their thing and people should be able to kind of make up their own minds. I think if painting that picture of like we're so reliant on these reviews that if they are negative, this movie will not make money, that's kind of a weird sort of, dystopian kind of way of looking at movies. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I'm actually like in favor of the embargo.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah, I like it because I like to approach every movie blindly and not know anything about it. But I take it to the next step where like I don't like to watch trailers of movies. But for multiple reasons, is I find now on a few movies, especially like nowadays, whenever the trailers come out, they're almost misleading. And so I absolutely hate that when you watch a movie and you think it's about this, and then because you saw the trailer and then you go watch it and it's completely different. So I essentially just like to know like what the movie is, and I kind of maybe will watch the very first trailer at the most and never like the second or the third trailer that comes out.
Yes.
And yeah, and same for reviews. It's like I don't see the point in reviewing a movie before it comes out. Movie companies have to make their money, and they're like, why shouldn't they? They're investing millions of dollars into something that like someone is gonna just completely destroy before it even comes out. Like, I don't see that as fair. Like, let the movie come out, let it run its pace, and then give it its honest review. But that's just my side and how I view it.
You know what? That you actually raised some good points. I'd actually never really thought about it that way, but you raised some really good points. Yeah, I'll never forget how distracted I was watching Rogue One, a Star Wars story, in theaters, because I'd watched all the trailers and read everything I could. And then I sat down and the entire film was so distracted by what wasn't in the film that was in the trailer. Because if you've watched that trailer now, like 70% of what's in that trailer is not in the film. Yeah. And even with the latest like Avengers trailers, they'll specifically shoot footage for the trailers just to throw people off the scent of what the plot is.
Yeah.
So not only is it different shots. It's shots that literally don't even exist. Characters that aren't even in the same space together.
Yeah, and I don't like that. I like to just be like, whoa, like taken by surprise whenever I start watching it.
That's a good way to be, man. I feel I just get so tempted. I get drawn in. I get drawn into this like orbit where I'm like, if I just have a peek at it and see, who's in the what and the this and that, and then I get excited. Yeah, it's tough. I think not having review embargoes, I think it encourages mob mentality, which is, in my opinion, very toxic, especially when we're talking about entertainment, because it's entertainment. We're not talking about important life-changing issues here. We're talking about entertainment. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You can take it a step further and be like, well, it's supposed to be art and it's supposed to be this and it's supposed to be that. But like on a face level, if you just take a step back and say, okay, what do I want in my family film? I want it to be bright and colorful. I want it to have some jokes to make the kids laugh. I want it to have some sort of culturally relating message and, maybe some memorable lines. Mm-hmm. And I feel like Emoji Movie has all that.
Yeah,
it's just
definitely.
in a very cynical package because the studio behind it is trying to recoup their losses. Mm-hmm. So that being said, I don't see 7% when I watch this movie.
No. Okay, if you had to give it a percentage, what would you give it?
If I was giving it a percentage?
Yeah.
You know what? I would honestly be around 50% mark, where I would be like, you know what? Like, it's an enjoyable film, but there's some cynical stuff like product placement, the apps, all that stuff really is like, especially the Candy Crush scene. I literally was like, I don't know if I can watch the rest of this.
Yeah.
But again, there's some cool stuff, So yeah, right around 50%. Like you
know what 50% is?
What's
meh.
that?
It's meh. That's the equivalent of meh.
I would rate this movie Gene.
What
would you give it?
I'll give it 52%. That's what I would put it. It was slightly better than like meh.
The problem with aggregating reviews is reviews are written in a vacuum. You don't know what that critic ate for breakfast that morning.
Yeah, that's true.
Again, this podcast is such a neat exercise because we reviewed Master of Disguise sitting at 1%. We reviewed Gigli sitting at 6%. We reviewed the Emoji Movie sitting at 7%. Does any of it make sense? Not really. Not really at all.
No.
Which I guess just enforces the point of, you know what? Just make up your own mind, man.
Yeah. just lose the mob mentality and just go and take it for face value.
Yeah. So I would defend James Corden's performance. Getting a movie this polished out in 2 years, given its rocky production. I defend the animation because it's pretty slick. It's on par with most stuff that's out, more or less. Some lighting issues that really bugged me, but other than that, it's fun, it's colorful, and it's upbeat. It's really upbeat.
Yeah, and I think that all the voice actors that were in here, like Anna Faris, Maya Rudolph, Jennifer Coolidge, Patrick Stewart, I think they all did a amazing job in voicing them too. Maya Rudolph was hilarious as the Smiler. I found her very funny because she had the almost psychotic vibe to her, but was it was just a really funny character.
As you know, I'm Smiler. I am the system supervisor here because I was the original Emoji.
Yeah, this movie also has an amazing Star Trek reference where Patrick Stewart voicing the poop at one point in time, when everything's malfunctioning or whatever, Patrick Stewart in his little cube starts yelling, "Red alert! Red alert!" And
I had no idea.
Oh yeah, it was a total Captain Jean-Luc Picard moment.
Oh, and that's awesome.
I'm not usually one for shameless references, but man, I just got chills because I was thinking about growing up watching Next Generation. And I was like, oh, I just want to go watch Star Trek
references. Oh, it's the best.
It was great. Patrick Stewart. I read about this too because I was wondering why the heck would Sir Patrick Stewart voice the poop, and I found out that he was just wrapping up production on Logan, which is a pretty bleak ride. Like, it's a great film.
Yeah.
But it's a pretty bleak ride.
Very dark.
Very dark. And I mean, there's a lot of amazing themes and a lot of, death and rebirth and all this cool stuff. And Patrick Stewart said that he wanted a palate cleanser after that. He just wanted to do something lighthearted to kind of, just have some fun to kind of cleanse. And so was looking through different casting opportunities and came across poop, voicing poop. And he just got such a kick out of it that he went and did it.
Yeah.
And we're maybe talking about 2 hours max of time in the studio he probably took to do that, right? Because he's not a major character. He's literally just like in a couple of scenes. And so you have to watch this for Patrick Stewart's Jean-Luc Picard reference.
And he is hilarious too, like all the references and jokes that he makes. One thing I wanted to add too, and because like Patrick Stewart is like arguably probably the biggest and the most famous actor out of everyone that's in that movie. And here is this guy who, is knighted Sir Patrick Stewart, and he's voicing the poop emoji and has like no problem about it. And that's what I mean is like, I hate that it went to like a racial point of view for Jordan Peele, but like, if someone like this who's like a serious actor can do it, like I don't see the big deal about it. But
yeah, we're talking about like a Shakespearean stage actor. Who decides I'm going to voice the poop because I get what family movies are.
Yeah, exactly. So like, I feel like, he had an absolute like great attitude towards the voicing the poop.
Yeah, if I was going to turn this movie into a meme on In Defense Of, I would just say, if Sir Patrick Stewart could go out of his way to voice a poop emoji out of all the projects he could have done that year, you can give this movie an hour and a half to entertain you.
Yeah, definitely. Get your kids, get your nieces or nephews, and just like have a fun time and watch it.
Exactly. Yeah. Really quickly, the music's not anything to really write home about. It's pretty good, but it's by the same composer. Yeah. Patrick Doyle did the music. He did such things you may have heard of as Thor.
Oh.
Rise of the Planet of the Apes. Murder on the Orient Express, which has a wicked soundtrack. Cinderella, the new Cinderella. He did Brave. He actually did the score for the video game as well. He's done a lot of cartoons, a lot of family films. He's did Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. So again, another kick-ass composer. Some real talent in the music department. So yeah, nothing to be offended about there. I mean, that's some good stuff.
I mean, I feel that the soundtrack was quite easy for this because they just picked mainstream songs. And so like they're probably all under the Sony label as well, aren't they? Like all the artists that they picked.
Oh, you know what? Probably. I didn't even think about that, but yeah, probably. Yeah. I bet if we looked into it, again though, that's just the money making machine. The music was dated in some places. I noticed some of the song selection. I was like, who's that for? Because this is like an older song,
Yeah. Hey?
Yeah. I was kind of like, that's a weird choice. But, it was what it was. Again, Aaron, I'm so torn. I'm 50-50 on this film in terms of, because there's the cynicism of like, oh my God, they're playing Candy Crush. Oh my God, they're doing Just Dance. Oh my God, there's Facebook, Spotify. Oh, they're writing a tweet. Oh my God. But then there's just this is kind of fun. That's funny. Oh, I like that. Oh, that's colorful. Oh, you know what? This is pretty funny. And this is an easy movie to not hate as much as it's an easy movie to hate. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Okay, let me ask you this, because me personally, I've never understood like why people get so upset about product placement. Because of me watching it, I was like, oh, they're in Candy Crush, like whatever. Like I don't care. Like I'm not gonna go buy the game and be like, oh my god, I saw it in the Emoji movie, I need to play Candy Crush. You know, I'm not like oh man, they're on a Twitter bird. Like I need to like download Twitter. Like I don't think that. Like and that's what I mean. It's like I don't understand why people just get so upset. Like, do they feel that like they're selling out because they have all this product placement in it? Does it take away from the movie because all of a sudden they're like taken out of like the immersiveness of the movie because there's like suddenly like a product in there? But like, that's what I mean is I have never understood it.
You know, the product placement in this movie is really bizarre to me because half, if not all the products that they shill in this movie come pre-installed on almost every phone nowadays anyway. Mm-hmm. Like you're not selling something that people don't just like have randomly, you know?
Yeah.
Like I don't really know anybody who doesn't have Dropbox, at least somewhere on their phone for whatever reason. Yeah. And also this is weird to me because Sony makes phones, and in every Sony movie I've seen, especially, what was it? The Hotel Transylvania sequel, the entire thing, their Sony Xperia phones were like front and center. Like, for the life of me, I couldn't figure out while watching this, why the hell are they not using their own phone as the phone? They're using like a generic phone made for the cartoon, made for the movie.
That's
and I
a
was
good
like,
point.
of all the products you guys are kicking out, why did you not Sony brand the phone as a phone manufacturer? Because every other Sony phone has that, or Sony film has that. Even in Spider-Man, even in the most recent Spider-Man, of course he's using a Sony phone. Like, why wouldn't he? It's a Sony film, you know? So the product placement in this film in particular is so confusing to me. But in other films, I think people don't like it just because it distracts them from what's going on in the movie.
Okay.
There's product placement bugs me for the most part, but only in certain films. Like if I'm watching a James Bond movie, for instance, I enjoy the product placement because James Bond films, above, you know, as well as being a lot of other things, they're kind of a time capsule of what that era was like. Like James Bond films are like, so how did people dress that year? What kind of cars were considered luxurious? What kind of beverages were considered luxurious? What did the world look like? Because if you go back and watch like a James Bond film from like the 90s, they were doing the same thing. But it's like, oh, remember when those were popular? Remember when people wore hats? Remember when... So James Bond films, it doesn't bother me. It really doesn't. But if I'm watching, say, Fast and the Furious, and they take a break to drink a Corona, and it's like perfectly framed in the shot, and Vin Diesel turns to the camera and says, nothing like a nice cold Corona. You know? Then I'm like, it's super cynical.
Yeah, okay. So, interesting fact about that. In Fast and Furious, when he pulls a Corona out, they did not actually pay Corona for that. It was free advertisement.
No way.
Yeah, it's actually real. Like it's it's an actual fact. They did not. They, for some reason, I can't remember why, they literally were like, we want Corona, and they just had Corona. And so it was something like $10,000 worth of advertisement that was just free because they wanted Coronas in the movie.
Good Lord. That's too funny. Man, that's one of the most blatant advertisement examples that just pops in my brain so clearly. It was not even intentional.
Yeah.
Now I just feel silly. Probably
now I want a Corona.
Yeah, let's go get a Corona after this. The one, another one that jumps out, sorry, just because you mentioned it, one that jumps into my head as being absolutely horrible was in one of the Transformers movies where it's one of the more recent ones. I think the third one where they're playing with that Transformer, like nanotech stuff. And the dude's just like, how about a gun? And then he's like, how about the pill by Beats by Dre? And like, you know what I mean? Like literally uses Transformer tech to create it, and it's like perfectly framed. So I have a love-hate relationship with product placement.
Yeah.
It's impossible to make a movie without products Kind of. So studios might as well make some money off it. I mean, if you need cars in your film, which most films do, those cars have to be manufactured by somebody, you know. You know, if you have a scene where two characters are drinking at a cafe, like there's all these different things that just kind of organically happen in terms of product placement that I don't mind so much because you're paying to make the film that I'm enjoying. It's when I'm like beat over the head with it and it feels greedy and it feels forced down my throat that I start to get a little shitty about it.
Yeah. I think that I don't know. I think I've just kind of built up an immunity to it where it just doesn't really faze me. Like I just tune it out. Yeah. So the only movie that I can think of that I'm like that it stuck out to me enough to remember was Mystery Men.
Yeah.
But I think that was more of like they use product placement as a joke in that movie.
They do, but it's like a sneaky trick because they use it as a joke, but it's not a joke in terms of their bank account.
Yeah. And so I think that was the only time that I've been like, I don't know how I feel about that. But other than that, like, yeah.
It's such a sneaky little trick, isn't it? Hey, like they're, you know, they almost use it as cynicism. Like, freaking Batman and Robin, when George Clooney pulls out the American Express and it's like, don't leave home without it. And you're like, good Lord.
Yeah. See, that's the thing is like when you go out of your way to actually like, you know, display the product, I think that, and like actually say something about it in the movie, that's when I get like a little bit annoyed. But I felt like the Emoji Movie did a really good job of not going too hard into the like the product placement, because even Candy Crush kind of fit into it well because it's a game on the phone. They're living in the phone and they went into the app. So you're like, okay, that makes sense. It's not like, hey, let's play a game of Candy Crush because we're in a phone, you know, like it made sense with it. It worked.
It furthered the plot.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's important to note. Yeah. The thing that really impacted me, again, with the premise of the film, is there was a certain amount of cynicism to all of the product placement too, where it was like, oh, why do we gotta go? Like, oh, especially the Facebook sequence when they like, what's Facebook? And he walks into it and all the characters behind in the app are like, that you don't really see, but they're like, oh, check out these pictures of my cat and blah, 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 you know, and they're making fun of Facebook. And then Gene walks out of it and he's like, oh God, like we can't go in there. So it's almost like anti-product placement where they're like, yeah, we're going to place products, but we're going to take a piss on them while we do it, you know? And again, that's almost the whole premise of the movie is taking the piss out of emojis, where it's like, yeah, we're going to do an emoji movie, but by the end of it, you're going to realize that you can't express yourself properly with emojis.
Yeah.
So, they Instagram, they talk about Instagram briefly. Again, Dropbox, which is essentially a free service unless you pay for like premium. The climax of the film is like getting to Dropbox. So the product placement in this film is really bizarre to me. It's really, really bizarre. At some point in time here, we're going to talk about Adam Sandler movies later in this series. And Adam Sandler has had a partnership with Sony, and his movies are basically commercials with you know, poop jokes in between them. So
yeah,
we're going to get there and we'll talk more about this for sure. But yeah, Emoji Movie, man, review embargoes, crazy production stuff, you know,
offending people, racially offending people.
Yeah.
It's got it all.
That's the thing. People go into these movies and they take face value based on a trailer, based on mob mentality they read on online or YouTube or whatever. But there's some fascinating history here, especially in terms of review embargo. Aaron, question for you. If, 1,000 years from now, say the human race is like obliterated, aliens come down to Earth, and one of the only movie available on a little thumb drive is the Emoji film. They pop it in, they watch it. If you're that alien, what do you think of the human race?
Oh, I mean, like, I wouldn't even know. I would have so many questions. I'd be like, well, is that what they were? Like, were they just yellow little smiley faces? Was there like an actual talking poop? Like,
yeah.
I don't know. I would like, okay, assuming they knew what humans were and they knew what movies were, I would say that I would be like, okay, they like to oh man, that's such a tough question. I don't know. What would you say?
I would just think they would think, wow, they had a really deep relationship with their technology, you know?
Yeah, okay,
I would
yeah.
think, oh, they only express themselves through the use of these devices, you know?
Yeah. I would think, oh, what is Candy Crush and where can I download it?
Oh man, look at these whales in Spotify. Let's go there. Yeah.
Yeah. That's what I would think.
Oh man. Okay. Oh, sorry. Just one quick note that I had written here was, man, their teacher was so good at drawing hieroglyphs.
Yeah.
They cut away to the classroom where the teacher is drawing hieroglyphs and drawing this parallel to how the ancient Egyptians used to use glyphs to how we use emojis today. A very understated, very underrated little parallel, by the way. But I thought, holy cow, he's really good at drawing those.
Yeah.
I could never do that.
I thought the exact same thing. I was just like, holy smokes. Like,
It was like a whole board full of them. And
like
they were
this
like
guy has to be like a professor in Egyptian hieroglyphs or whatever.
What the hell is he doing working at like a community high school?
Yeah.
What is he, like an alcoholic or something? I was like, he should be like at a university or with those kind of skills.
Yeah, definitely. He probably went home and was like, I need to relate to these kids. What can I possibly teach them to relate? And that's what he came up with.
Stay up all night filling a board with Egyptian hieroglyphs.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know about you, Aaron, but my high school in Prince George, British Columbia, I sure didn't have teachers drawing hieroglyphs on the board.
No, maybe poop emojis, but that's about
it. Just drawing poop.
Yeah.
Today's lesson will be on poop.
No, I think poop emojis were like before my high school time anyways.
Yeah.
One more thing I was thinking is I thought the movie also had a very positive message in friendship. Because like whenever the hand gets deleted and they go back and rescue him. And I thought it had a very positive message in that as well, which I really liked.
Yes, very much so. He had a choice to make. And even Jailbreak she was trying to urge him to kind of keep going. We can't go back for him.
Yeah.
But they did, and that was super nice.
And the nice thing about it wasn't like, oh, should I not? It was like, okay, we're going back for him. Like it was set in his mind, which I think is like a really positive message to just like know to be there for your friends.
Yeah, he was facing deletion and he still went and saved his friend.
With no hesitation.
Yes. I liked the ticking clock scenario where the kid was going to get his phone wiped. I thought that was just clever. It raised the stakes, put some urgency in the situation. I thought it was funny when it cut back to the kid and his phone's going off and freaking out.
Yeah.
I kept thinking to myself, what happens if he just turns it off? But they didn't really go there. I was like, doesn't matter. It's not
movie over. That's what happens.
Movie over. Roll credits.
Do people even turn their phones off nowadays? Like, do you turn your phone off?
Yeah, once a week. If I'm in a film, like at a theater, I'll turn it off just because.
I like never turn my phone off. It goes on to silent, but yeah, it's always on.
Jeez, I keep killing my emojis and yours are just having a party.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
This was supposed to be a series, by the way. It was supposed to kick off a franchise. That did not happen. There was going to be like a multiverse, right? Because everyone's got their own phone. So you'd have like emojis over here and emojis over there and different kind of, maybe the girl's phone, the emojis are a little different and blah, 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 blah. It never happened. Just something to note. This was going to be a vehicle for Sony. Did not work out.
Too bad. Now they could just go back to making, I don't know, Adam Sandler movies or whatever they're doing. No, I think Netflix has cashed in on Adam Sandler.
That's true. Oh man, yeah. One of the CEOs of like Sony Pictures went to work for Snapchat, and the basis of Snapchat appearing as a product placement in this movie was literally just him making a few bucks to jump over.
Wow.
Yeah. Something, another weird little factoid I found in my, and I was like, what the heck? That's weird.
Yeah, well,
Yeah, man.
you got anything else to add to this, or?
I thought them riding on a music stream was a cool visual. I thought that was cool. I enjoyed that.
I did as well.
When the whale jumps over them, I thought that was really cool. I always like seeing music visually represented. There's always creative ways of doing that, and that was creative. I liked it. So, no, that's the only note I had left. Honestly, I just I didn't have a lot of notes, but again, this was not as painful as I ever would have thought. So, yeah, man. How about you?
I overall enjoyed it. Like I said, thought it conveyed a positive message, and the product placement wasn't like too bad for me, and so I really enjoyed it.
Awesome.
With that being said, let me ask you this, Stan.
Yes.
Do you?
I think I know what's coming.
Do you ever feel like you don't have a place to belong, or you have troubles sorting out your feelings?
Yes.
Do you have trouble making friends and keeping friends?
Yes.
Well, I suggest you watch this movie. Because it will give you some hard life lessons.
Oh, man. Awesome. Well, I think that about does it for the Emoji film. The Emoji movie, rather. Not as hard as I thought it would be. Not as bad as I thought it would be. And certainly doesn't deserve to be only 1% away from the disaster that was Gigli. So
yeah, I feel like Gigli is kind of like our stand or our like reference for bad now.
Yeah, that's definitely my bedrock as of right now. Yeah. So awesome. Well, I enjoyed it. That was fun. Thanks so much for tuning in and checking out this episode. Feel free to subscribe, and we'll keep making them and watching awesome films / terrible films. Take care, everybody. Bye.
Bye.